When you're on a healing journey, something interesting starts to happen. You're learning all this incredible stuff about trauma, attachment styles, setting boundaries, and it feels like, wow, you finally have the language for your experience. But there's a really subtle trap that can be hiding in all that good work. Sound familiar at all? You kind of wake up one day and realize the language you're using to heal has become the language you use for everything. Every chat with a friend, every decision you make, every story you tell about yourself, it all gets funneled through this one lens. And that right there is the trap. That's the core idea we're going to unpack. Now, this is not about saying healing isn't important. It's absolutely crucial. But it's about making sure the process is doing what it's supposed to do. Give you your life back, not become your life.
So how does this trap even work? Honestly, it usually starts with something that feels like a huge relief: labeling. We finally find the words for what we've been going through. The danger, though, is when we start to cling to those labels a little too tightly.
It can start out pretty innocently. You become the designated anxious one in your friend group or your family. It just becomes this kind of shorthand for who you are.
And from there, it can go a little deeper. The thing you're working so hard to heal from stops being something that happened to you, and it starts to feel like the very core of who you are. And here's the really tricky part. Even the process of healing itself can become this whole new identity. The label isn't even about the wound anymore. It's about the constant, endless work of fixing it. "I'm the one doing the work" becomes just another box to put yourself in. And this isn't just some vague idea, by the way. Psychology actually has a term for it: identity fusion with trauma. It's that moment when the tools that were meant to set you free actually become the cage that defines your entire world. All right, let's use a super concrete example to really see how this plays out. Let's talk about someone who went through a really serious case of burnout at their job. You can almost see it happening in stages. First, that discovery phase is so empowering. You finally have a name for the exhaustion. But then phase 2 kicks in: constant analysis. Every little decision, every story is told through the burnout filter. And finally, you get to identity fusion. They're no longer a person who experienced burnout, they are the burnt-out person. See how their whole world has just shrunk to fit inside that one label?
So if that's the trap, what's the way out? What's the real point of all this hard work? Well, it's about moving towards expansion, not, shrinking yourself down.
This is it. This is the heart of the matter, right here. The entire point of understanding your past is to free you up to live a bigger, richer, more interesting life now. It's not supposed to keep you stuck in a loop, endlessly analyzing everything that went wrong. And this just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's two completely different paths. On one side, you've got healing as your whole identity. That leads to endless analysis, a smaller world, and constantly looking backward. But on the other side, you treat healing as a tool, and that opens you up to curiosity, to joy, to an expanding world, and to being focused on the present.
So what does that expanding world actually look like? What does it feel like? Well, it's about making space for all this stuff, for being curious, for trying new things and being creative, for relationships that aren't constantly under a microscope. It's about joy and, even boredom. Just normal, boring, human moments that have absolutely nothing to do with your healing journey.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. It's really about zooming out and seeing the entire picture of who you are.
I mean, this metaphor just says it all, right? A chapter can be intense, it can be painful, it can be pivotal, it can totally define what comes next, but it is still just one part of a much, much bigger story. Your life is so much bigger than your wounds, and honestly, it's bigger than the process of healing them too.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to just kind of chew on. What parts of your life, your personality, your sense of humor, your hobbies, your weird little joys, what parts exist completely outside of your healing journey? Because those things, they're not a distraction from the work. They might just be the whole point. That's where your fullest, most authentic life is probably waiting for you.